El Salvador announced that Bitcoin will become legal tender in the country. People all over the world have been getting excited about widespread adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole. Now, on the initial news that El Salvador put out, Bitcoin jumped up a few $1,000s in price, but it promptly fell back down again and has spent another week with no major price movements in any direction. Now, I'm going to explain why I think this hasn't led to a major price hike of Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency for that matter, and the problems behind El Salvador's adoption. But before that, I've got a clip here from an interview with Strike CEO Jack Mallers, who is basically the guy behind El Salvador's adoption. I'll play that for you guys now.
First of all, though, assuage a concern I've got about this El Salvador stuff. Just at the end of last week, El Salvador pulled out of an anti-corruption accord with the Organization of American States. And the U.S. is concerned that this is going to be a problem for efforts to root out graft there. Is there any way that corrupt politicians, others in El Salvador, could get in between these transactions, converting Bitcoin into dollars or other currencies and cause a graft or corruption problem related to crypto down the road?
Listen, Bitcoin holds properties that are very important. It's censorship resistant, and it's an open monetary network. And so there are no intermediaries, and El Salvador embraces that. They will be coming out with a government wallet that is supportive and is encouraged to be used, but not required. And anyone that is interoperable with the open monetary network can use it. And so to answer your question, no. And my focus is embracing the properties that is Bitcoin and what makes it the most powerful monetary network on the planet, and helping El Salvador build the most inclusive financial infrastructure any country has ever seen in human history.
And so your understanding of this government wallet is that the forces in the government won't be able to reach into it and take things out in a way that's not traceable?
No, listen,
okay.
If you custody assets with any custodian, you are at the beholden of that custodian, whether that's Coinbase, whether that's a government, whether that's Chase Bank, whether that's Fidelity. The power of Bitcoin is you can custody your own assets and you can remain interoperable with the network yourself if you want. And El Salvador embraces that. Of course, the government needs to be interoperable with the monetary network that they're supportive of, and we're going to help them with that. But anyone can do whatever they want, and that's a huge property and power of Bitcoin and why this is such a huge moment for humanity.
Okay. Now, Jack, let's talk about Strike for a moment. You operate on the Lightning Network. You were part of what allowed the NFL's Russell Okung to take his salary in Bitcoin. Why is this an important moment, and where do you hope this goes next?
Yeah, so at Strike, we think that the Bitcoin network and Bitcoin asset, it's the most powerful monetary network of all time and the most impressive asset in human history. And so we, as a company, have a mission to secure financial freedom for all. And we do that by making this monetary network easily accessible and usable to everyone on the planet. And so that's our mission. And whether you're an NFL player, whether you're a rap artist, whether you're a barista, whether you sell pupusas, whether you're the president of a country, I am here. I will die on this hill, and I'm very supportive of what Bitcoin stands for and moving it forward.
Hey, Jack, people who are watching the evolution of Bitcoin or crypto in general as a payment mechanism ask, okay, how are you going to order a pizza when you don't know whether or not the payment is going to have a drop of 30% in value before the pizza gets to your door? Is El Salvador going to explain? Is going to be a decent case study to explain how that gets smoothed out?
Yeah, so here's the deal. It's not mandated that you hold Bitcoin. There's security concerns. There's how you're going to custody it. There's exposure to volatility as it's traded in a free market environment. What the government is encouraging is interoperability with the open monetary network. And so what we've done at Strike, and this is a product that exists today and it's widely used and very popular, is we allow dollars, like a traditional US bank account, to be interoperable with this open monetary network. And so you can send and make Bitcoin payments with dollars and receive Bitcoin payments as dollars. And so you're not exposed to tax consequences, volatility, security risks. You don't have to be a cryptographer to do that. I do that for you. And so the government is going to take advantage of this infrastructure we've built, and all of those problems are solved.
So what you guys heard there was some concern that Bitcoin wallets owned by the El Salvadorian citizens but controlled by the government and Stripe could lead to corruption from the government. El Salvador also just recently pulled out of an anti-corruption accord with the United States, so some people are worried about transparency and whether or not the government might be able to steal from or freeze people's wallets. Now, personally, I agree with Jack Mallers here. The risk of that happening is no greater than the risk posed to those who own Bitcoin through Coinbase or Binance, or those who use banks to hold their dollars, pounds, or euros. There's also the fact that Stripe is working with the El Salvadorian government on this project, and if it emerges that they failed to protect the wallets from the government, the entire company would pretty much collapse. It is entirely in Stripe's interest to make sure that this is done fairly and efficiently, so I don't think this is a cause for concern. Another piece of news that came out was that El Salvador plans to harvest energy from volcanoes to mine Bitcoin, and at first that sounds pretty cool and promising, but to be honest, it's probably just a little bit of a publicity stunt and it doesn't mean much. El Salvador right now uses almost entirely fossil fuels to power the country, over 99%, which means that if they create renewable energy for the pure purpose of mining Bitcoin with, it will just prevent that renewable energy from going towards productive energy usage like powering people's homes and will not help the environment at all. In fact, it will probably harm the environment. So I'm not really surprised that this didn't cause the price of Bitcoin to skyrocket either. Now, we did get an interesting glimpse into what JP Morgan thinks about this whole thing as they released this paper outlining their thoughts. The first few points are pretty basic, just going over how this adoption is an attempt to grow the El Salvadorian economy, but that it's difficult to see how it might actually help. The interesting thing, and the reason I'm showing this to you guys, is the highlighted part at the bottom. JP Morgan believed that the important thing about all this is that it could start a chain reaction of other countries accepting or integrating Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, which could have an actual impact on the markets. El Salvador alone is not big enough, powerful enough, or influential enough to really change anything today, but if other South American countries join in, if African or Asian countries do the same thing, then we could see some real developments in the crypto markets from this. So once we actually look at what happened in a little bit of detail, we see that this news isn't as huge as we initially thought it was. Although it could prove to be very important if it triggers some kind of mass adoption of crypto. It's not too surprising that Bitcoin hasn't really changed in price either. We're in the beginning of a bear market. Bitcoin has recently lost 50% of its value, so new investors are hesitant to jump in, and the news isn't really as influential as it could have been. I think it's really important to try and look at every piece of news with as little bias as possible and try to consider the merits and the drawbacks of everything without getting consumed by the hype, especially after the recent crypto bull market. I'm Max, this is Stoic Finance, and if you want more stuff like this, then like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything else. Thanks for watching, until next time.